A college campus is designed to feel like a sanctuary. With glowing courtyards, visible security patrols, and ID-restricted buildings, the environment projects a constant, comforting sense of total safety. Living inside this bubble creates a specific mental safety net. When we spend years in a space defined by rules and supervision, we become conditioned to believe that nothing truly dangerous can happen here. That conditioning forces us to search for excuses when something feels off. We hear a heavy footstep in the woods and tell ourselves it's just a deer. We catch someone staring from the shadows and assume they're just socially awkward. We look for any reason to maintain the illusion that we are safe. We can trace this loss of safety by looking at the physical distance a threat covers. 4 documented encounters show a predator closing the gap, starting at the dark edges of campus and moving inward, right up to a student's bed. Examining how these students reacted and how long they waited to act reveals the exact moment a weird memory becomes a life-threatening situation. We start at Binghamton University, where a massive nature preserve sits right on the edge of campus. Late one night, 3 students hiked deep into those isolated woods to sit around a fire. Far from any roads or foot traffic, they heard branches snapping in the dark. They were miles from the safety of their dorms, but they kept drinking, assuming the noise was just local wildlife. But the sounds followed a pattern. The heavy footsteps moved in a deliberate arc around their campsite, slowly positioning whoever was out there between the students and their only path home. The illusion of safety vanished when a heavy, jagged tree branch flew out of the darkness and smashed directly into one of the students' faces. On the perimeter of campus, the distance between safety and danger is measured in seconds. The isolation provides a predator with the time they need to track a target and wait for a lapse in judgment. Now we move from the woods directly into the crowd. During the first week of freshman year at the University of Iowa, 2 roommates headed off campus to explore the local nightlife. They ended up at an underground fraternity house. The environment was hostile from the start, dimly lit, suffocatingly hot, and packed almost entirely with men. A stranger approached one of the freshmen and handed him a small, unknown bottle of liquor. The man didn't move. He stood inches away, waiting. Feeling the social pressure of the crowded room, the student drank it to avoid the friction of a confrontation. 10 minutes later, he woke up in a pitch-black room upstairs. Through the muffled bass of the music, he heard a distinct, terrifying sound, the crunch of a plastic grocery bag just a few feet away. Someone was in the room, waiting for the drug to take full effect. In a crowded basement, isolation is achieved in social coercion. The pressure to conform allows a threat to move in plain sight, using the noise and the crowd to mask an abduction. The threat now moves into university housing.
A sophomore lived in a single dorm room, tucked into an isolated corner at the end of a long hallway. Late one night, a light, rhythmic tapping began on his door. It was faint enough to be mistaken for the building settling. This was a probe, a test to see if the student would ignore the intrusion or stand up to defend his space. Days later, the tapping escalated to aggressive, frantic banging at 3 a.m. The student finally threw open the door and chased a retreating figure down the hall, cornering them in a communal bathroom. Peering under the stall, he saw 2 heavy black work boots. He forced the door open, but found the boots sitting empty on the floor. Then, from the corners of the dark bathroom, he heard the disembodied giggle of an older man. When an intruder reaches your door, they have transitioned from physical stalking to psychological warfare. They are testing the boundaries of your home, seeing exactly how much territory you are willing to surrender before you call for help. Finally, the threat bypasses the threshold entirely. A freshman was assigned a random roommate named Dale. From the first handshake, Dale was a source of constant, unsettling behavior, refusing to speak and rarely leaving the room. The escalation began with passive observation. The student woke up in the middle of the night to find Dale sitting upright on the edge of his bed, staring silently across the dark room at him. Next came information gathering. After a short trip out of the room, the student realized his unlocked laptop had been accessed. Dale had systematically opened and read his private emails and personal folders. The violation became physical when the student woke up to the sound of a zipper, catching Dale rummaging through his bags on the floor in the middle of the night. The student moved rooms to escape, but the stalking continued. Days later, he woke up to a faint metallic clicking at his new door. Looking through the peephole, he saw Dale in the hallway, trying to pick the lock. Within the inner sanctum, predators often hide behind a mask of social awkwardness. It provides them with the cover they need to methodically escalate their behavior until a total violation is possible. Across all 4 encounters, a chilling pattern emerges. These students were safe only until the attackers crossed a line so overt that it finally overrode the students' instinct to rationalize the danger. Predators in these environments rely on our cultural conditioning. They count on our desire to avoid making a scene, our fear of appearing rude, and our tendency to give people the benefit of the doubt. Whether it's an unwanted drink, a strange noise in the woods, or a roommate staring at you in the dark, your brain will try to find a logical, harmless explanation, but your gut is already sounding the alarm. The moment a situation feels invasive, the window for a safe exit is already closing. Survival depends on trusting that initial alarm and acting immediately, long before the threat leaves you with no other choice but to fight.